So this is for those of you that missed school on Friday, the 26th of January. We started talking about space technology, and after we discussed a few of these vocabulary words, so I'm going to have you listen to me explain it. Then I can, after you listen to it, then I'll have you come tell me a little bit more what you remember. So to begin with, just need you to remember what are the differences between meteor and meteorite. So there's one major thing that's different about them. And then read your notes. What are the things that, study in your notes, that are alike about a meteor and a meteorite? After we discussed that, then we discussed moons. So these are celestial bodies. These are celestial bodies. This is a celestial body. So all of these things that we're going to talk about all orbit in our solar system, and they all are attracted to the sun through the sun's gravity. That's why they're in our solar system. So moons, the unique characteristics of moons are that they orbit the planet. They do not directly orbit the sun. They orbit a planet. They are mostly rocky. Few of them have a little bit of ice, and they are always smaller than their planet. So you need to add that to your vocabulary page. So moon, underline that, and then write these facts that are unique, the unique characteristics about moons. Directly orbit a planet. Smaller than that planet, and they're rocky. Give yourself a space, and then we have another one, which is asteroids. So asteroids are unique also. Let me get this to move here. They are irregular space rocks. So they're rocky, but they are not smooth spherical shape. They're bumpy and groovy, have unusual surfaces similar to that ball of clay that I used when we did our making of crater lab a couple weeks ago. These asteroids are space rocks, and they, almost all of them, orbit between the planets of Mars and Jupiter, and we call that area the asteroid belt. So easy to remember. So Mars is the farthest out inner planet, so Mercury from the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then is this whole ring of unusual shaped chunks of rock. Some are huge, like as big as a school bus, and some are as small as just a small rock. I'll have to do some Googling to give you more details about that this coming week. Then the next planet that would be in its orbit is Jupiter. So Jupiter is the farthest out of the inner planet. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Those are the gaseous planets. So these asteroids are just a ring, just orbiting in a belt area together between those two planets' orbits. Okay, and then we talked about, give yourself another space, and we're going to now talk about comets. So comets are similar to those, but they have unique characteristics also. So what is unique about a comet? That is the fact that they have ice and dust in their substance. They also have what area of the comet that's called the head, and then they have this tail that I'll talk more about. The nickname for a comet is a dirty snowball. So those are the characteristics that you need to study and be able to differentiate when I say which one orbits just a planet, which one orbits between Mars and Jupiter, which one orbits the sun at an unusual orbit, does not follow any of the orbits of the other planets. That would be another fact about the comet. And then below there you can see the most famous comet, I would say, pretty safely say, is Halley's Comet. It was last so that we could see it on Earth in 1986, which is when I graduated. I distinctly remember when that happened. They sold t-shirts and had all these things happening to celebrate that Halley's Comet had come back around. It is reportedly to make a return in 2061, so you can think about how old you'll be at that time, which is the next stop, because it usually comes past every 76 years. So if that's what happens again, it'll come back around in your lifetime, the year 2061. So that's a comet. So now I'd like to show you what Study Island describes these, or what these look like, how Study Island shares their pictures. So just to shape here. Get on to Study Island. And the area on Study Island is obviously the solar system, all of these things, those 5 things: planets, moons, asteroids, meteors, meteorites, moons, and comets. So here is the star, or our sun, our star. So there's moons, of course. They're mostly rock, may contain a bit of ice. They're smaller than a planet, but they are larger than asteroids. Here's how they describe an asteroid. It looks something like that. You can see the craters in it. Small bodies of rock and metal. They can be large or small, so I'm going to get some things to compare that to. They are almost any shapes, and you can see this is not a spherical, round, smooth, spherical object. And they orbit planets, and asteroids usually orbit a star, which is why it's out around between Mercury, or between Mars and Jupiter. It's not going around just a planet. It orbits our sun, the star. Next down is a comet, and here, this is a really good image of a comet. So the head would be this area out here, and so as this orbit, it's funky orbit, and it goes closer to the sun's going to melt that frozen ice, and then that makes this tail get longer. And so then as it gets closer and closer to the sun, melting more and more and more, it gets a longer and longer tail. Then opposite of that is also true. When the comet circles around and it's going away from the sun, then that tail gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And then here's just to show you a picture of meteoroids, which is just a classification that's talking about meteorites, which are when they hit the ground, and when they're a meteor, when they're just coming through our atmosphere. So that's what those would be, meteoroids. All right, let me see. I don't think, on page 4, I didn't show any of the students yet, so I will wait till Monday. Hopefully you'll be in class to see that. After we talked about those bodies, so meteors, meteorites, moons, asteroids, comets, those are 5 celestial bodies that you'll have to learn the unique characteristic, or how they differentiate between them. All right, then we also added the Kuiper Belt, which is right here. The Kuiper Belt is the area beyond Neptune, so add that to your vocab page. Then this whole area beyond Neptune, and inside of it is lots of icy celestial bodies, mostly comets and dwarf planets. Those are the 2 main things that are in the Kuiper, that has been found in the Kuiper Belt. And then this fact here you can read, similar to the asteroid belt. It has more unique things in it, but it is far, far, far larger 200 to 200 times as massive or as big. This is a artist's drawing of what it possibly is going to look like. Okay, so thanks to all the research and telescopes and Voyager spacecraft we've sent out past Neptune, we now know that this is even out there. In the last couple of years, they even realized that there's another area beyond the Kuiper Belt called the Oort cloud. We'll talk just briefly about this next couple of weeks. All right, so then speaking of technology, I'm going to have this page for you. So turn in your notebooks to this page and you can follow along, highlighting or just focusing on what's the use of this technology. I'm going to update some of these numbers just to verify that they are still accurate. So the first technology that we focused on is just called a light telescope. So this is just your quote normal telescope. And it just views the celestial bodies from space. It stays on Earth, uses just light, light reflected from the sun to off of other objects, sun's light onto other objects, and then into our atmosphere so we can see it through our technology. So it's mostly on Earth, but we can also attach them to things that we send into outer space also, light telescopes. We have another type of telescope called a radio telescope. Here I'm showing you some pictures. These are from Earth because they're too heavy to launch. We have lots and lots of these around. They study things that give off radio waves. So when you get older, you'll learn more about radio waves, but they are actually part of the light that comes from the sun. Not only is the sun made up of the light that we see with our eyes, but the part of the sun's light is also radio waves. So hopefully I'll have a little bit of chance to explain more of that to you when we talk about light, but just in case I don't, that's where the sun's light is partly radio waves, which probably isn't make too much sense, but that's the way it is. Last thing we talked about on Friday were satellites. So we have 6,000 man-made satellites. Not only that NASA has set up, but Chinese has set up, the Russians have set up, Europe has set up, Japan, Canada possibly, lots and lots and lots. However, only 60 of them are working, so that's not a real good percentage. And then satellites are also can be natural satellites, so all the moons. Our moon, Mars has 2, Jupiter has in the 60s, Saturn has in the 50s, I think, and I'll give you those numbers this coming week. So what is a satellite? It's just anything that is put into space or is naturally in space that is orbiting a planet. So that's the key thing here. Orbiting a planet. So what do our satellites do for us? Well, lots and lots and lots. They are studying the sun, they're taking pictures of Earth, studying all kinds of data. This is how we know about things going on in our atmosphere. It's how we know anything about the weather forecasting, about Earth's environment, the things that are on the surface of the Earth, the ice, the water level, the clouds, any weather forecasts, talking about any of these things that we're measuring, the salt in the sea. We're also studying the air, around Earth's air, amount of rainfall. But besides all of this, it's also satellites also help us with GPS, so that would be transportation. It also tells us about the social media, the communication. Any communication that we have is also thanks to and is made possible by all the satellites that we have. So that has drastically changed in my lifetime we didn't have near these that when I was in 5th grade. All right, so these are the things that orbit our planet that either we have put up there or that God put up there, the natural moons. So you're pretty much caught up. You have a quiz to take about gravity, so you'll need to come see me if you're out of the room to get that done. See ya.